This is a multi-function table that I have kind of tricked out, and everything you're going to see in today's video is me trying to justify putting 3 of these small MFTs in my shop. Because to be honest, if you'd have come to me 6 months ago and asked me about putting an MFT table in a wood shop, I'd have told you the idea is kind of dumb. Now, before you go down to the comments section and start beating me up about thinking MFT tables are dumb, hear me out. 6 months ago, all I really knew about MFT tables is that the good ones were really expensive, kind of wobbly, and definitely not worth the money. They were meant to be portable things you could take to a job site, and I get that. I just kind of had a bad taste in my mouth about MFT tables, and then when I started seeing them pop up in wood shops, I was like, nah, not for me. Fast forward 2 months from 6 months ago, and everything around here kind of changed. 3 reasons. First of all, retirement doesn't suit me all that well. Second reason is Maggie, Allie, and I decided that we were going to start our small family business back up, making products or tools that we sell online. And the thing that really clinched it on the MFT tables was this little green thing. This is an expanding dog. It expands on both the top and bottom and has a really good hold. So this gave me a whole bunch of ideas about how I could create fixtures and jigs I need for both production shop and woodworking. And all of a sudden the MFT table started making sense. With the traditional expanding dog, when it expands at the bottom, it leaves a small gap up at the top, and with enough force you can kind of knock that sideways, messing up your accuracy. Now with a dog that expands at both the top and the bottom, it fills that gap, so the force really doesn't have anywhere to push it, which means more accuracy, and you're able to use it for a little bit more aggressive things. In this case, we used it in our production process for mounting our plates or fixtures to both our drilling jig and our tapping setup. So the really nice thing is I can take that same fixture that holds that part, move it over to my MFT table, and then use that same fixture for tapping. So from drilling to tapping, same jig. Now, I know that sounds silly, but in a small shop, that's really nice to only have to make one fixture instead of all these fixtures piling up for all the different things that we make. So for instance, we also use that same machine for drilling holes in our back pads, and then we can take it over to the table and then tap them as well. So cutting down on the amount of space we're using up. I know it's a small thing, but those things matter. The thing I might like about Bose expanding dogs even more than their holding power is their price. They're very affordable, so I can use them all over the place in MFT tables and any dog holes for all the fixtures, and I'm not going to feel bad about buying more if I need them. What I really like about Bose expanding dogs is that I can use them in so many different ways, not just for our production operations, but definitely for a lot of the woodworking stuff that we do here in the shop. And I thought of a pretty cool way to use them. I'm going to show you that next, and then we'll get into the MFT table, and we'll talk about some of the other crazy things that we're doing with our setup. Even these goofy arms. They come in this great little pack of 6. And the design on this is a little slice of genius. What I like about it is I can just use quarter 20 bolts, and I can use any quarter 20 bolts. So if I need something longer or shorter, I can just pop that out and put a new one in, and it slides right in there. It also works with T-bolts. So if I have T-bolts laying around, I can do that too. The other thing that's really cool is they're reversible. So top, bottom doesn't matter. And if I wanted to, and I needed a really low profile type of setup, I could put a quarter 20 nut on the bottom and secure it with a bolt from the top, giving me a really low profile option. The other thing that was really thoughtful about this design is this little proud section right here that's on both sides. So on the other side, in the dog rails, I put this little groove in that it rides in. So when I'm loosening or tightening, it won't spin in the hole. Now, if you're anything like me, I want all the things that I have going on in the shop to do as many things as possible. So I want these dog rails to do a lot of things on top of my MFT table. So one of the things that we did with them is put a T-track right in the face that I can add a bow clamp to, and that holds everything really nicely in place where I need something up on its edge. Now, of course, it works as a straight edge. It works as a stop system, like a stop block if you were cutting something. And if you use two of these together, you can use it as a jig for putting together face frames and keeping everything very nicely square. Now, the first thing we did was use the bow clamp, but I wanted something a little faster, and it just so happens you can put a T-bolt in these from the other side, fasten a Bessie clamp to it, and you have no problem clamping face frames together all day long very, very quickly. There's a lot of other uses for this as well. So as you can see, we're finding lots of great uses for the dog rails. Now this was the first table that I made, and we used this for a couple of weeks until I figured out what I really kind of wish I had and didn't like about it, and then we built a second one. This is the second table I designed and built. Now the things that I was missing from that table I added to this one, and I really like this one. But I wanted to use it again for a couple of weeks before I decided to build two more just like it. Make sure the size is okay and all the function is okay. And I'm really happy with the design. Right off the bat, I can tell you having the CNC made it an easy ask to build the MFT tables. And if you're wondering, yes, CNCs really do go that fast. No, really. What I start doing here with the assembly, and a lot of you are going to say, hey, why are you gluing the top to this? And my plan really wasn't to keep this. It was just to use it, see if I like it, make modifications, and then build the next three. But just so happens I really like this design, so I probably could have got away with building this without gluing the top on. And the reason I'd want to do that is so I could replace the top after it gets all beat up. Now, it may surprise some of you to know that there are different qualities of MDF, and this is a high quality MDF. This is called a High Pro MDF, a much denser version of MDF than you would get from, say, a box store. So it can take a beating, it doesn't swell and contract as much. It's just a better material, so it should last a long time. So I don't feel too bad about gluing everything to the top. Now, I wanted to put T-tracks in this so I can add accessories and my vac pads to it, and I definitely wanted to make sure that there was a shelf under this. So having a shelf underneath the top of a workbench is just crazy handy to set tools and things out of the way, especially when you're talking about a pretty small workbench. So this one is 24 inches by 48 inches, but it's perfect for what we need it for. And since we're going to have three of them, I can start, butting these things up if I need a larger work surface. Again, with the glue, I'm gluing the legs on. In the future versions, I'll make it so the legs come off, because if I want to move these, I could just put wheels on it and move it around like a fork truck. One of the things about the MFT tables out on the market that never made a lot of sense to me is that most of them don't have T-tracks in them. Now, if you're going to build a bench like this, my thought is you want to make it the most versatile system you can. So I was definitely adding T-tracks in mine, and now there's a handful of them out there that do, and I am so glad I did this. It just adds a whole nother level of versatility and optionality to the bench. Now in this case, I put them both on the top and I put them on one side. In the new benches, I'm going to have them on both the top and on both sides, and maybe one on one end. I have some ideas around that we'll share in upcoming videos. So like I said, I am really enjoying this design, this size, and all of the ways that we're accessorizing it. Now, one of the things that I definitely wanted to jump into right away was vacuum holding, or vac pods, or vac pads, whatever you want to call them. So we started making our own vacuum pads. We call them STM vac pods. That's these things right here. Now, in order to make those work, I wanted to bring back something we made a long time ago, and that's the vacuum plate. Basically, it turns a Grabo or a DeWalt Grabo like this one into a portable vacuum pump, a powerful battery-operated vacuum pump. And that's worked out really well. And also now on the market, you can find battery-powered vacuum pumps just like these that are very portable. So if you wanted to take this to a job site, you could. Let me show you how these work. It's pretty cool. These are our STSs and our STMs. Now, the square ones and these rectangle ones have the exact same holding capacity. With a Grabo, it's right around 264 pounds per puck. But what I like about this shape, it seems to be a lot more handy than the square shape. Now, this is great if you're going to use 4 pads, use it for holding it for large panels. But when you're doing things that are narrower or panels, you can just line these up with each other, put a panel on it, or you can line them up this way and put a panel on it. And of course, we've got a little shutoff valve right here if we just want to use one. If I'm working with something that's 3 inches or wider, I can line these up, turn on my Grabo, and just like that, I've got a really nice strong hold. Now on this setup, I put a foot pedal. You don't have to have it. You can just release that button here and lift it up, or in this case, I can use the foot pedal. That releases it as well. I'm not sure whether I like the foot pedal or this more. I think when I start using them on the side for vertical holding, I'll like the foot pedal more. But right now, I think this is the way I like to go. So this is getting almost to 11 PSI, which means that puck has about 260 pounds of hold pressure, just like that. Now this is a little vacuum pump from Harbor Freight in their Hercules lineup. This is their 20 volt system. Now this is really interesting because it creates a little bit more of a vacuum. Let me turn that on real quick. And it also acts a little faster, so it creates a hold a little bit faster. The big problem is the battery wears out in about 15-20 minutes, where the Grabo, you're good for at least 90 minutes, usually 2 or 3 hours. On the new vac plates that turn the Grabo into a vacuum pump, we have a little hangy clip here, so that's kind of handy. And then of course it locks the Grabo in, so when it's not being used as a vacuum pump, no worries, it's going to stay right where it belongs. This has come in really handy, and really this is still my favorite option right here. We're really just beginning to start tricking out these tables. We have ideas for track saws and a whole bunch of other stuff, but probably one of the most unique things that we've done so far is added these arms. Now this all started when I found this tapping arm. I spent 4 months looking for an affordable tapping arm that didn't cost a crazy amount of money because they get really expensive. So I found this one right here for $460, which is 60 bucks more than just your standard one size reversible tapping setup that goes on a drill press. This one came with the arm, this, a whole bunch of sets of different size taps. Now this was pretty necessary for us because we had a lot of holes to taps in all the new products that we're making. Now having that versatility to go from different sizes was really handy. It also had a chuck on it, which was cool. And that just started giving me a lot of ideas. We added a router to this. And the interesting thing about the router is it meant we could work in one area. We didn't have to go take all those parts over to a router table. This was fast, it was safe, and it kept the router from tilting being attached to the arm. And it wasn't like we had to set the router down in between parts. We just let it go up in the air. It would sit there till we're ready for the next part. That gave me a whole bunch of ideas, so I ordered a second arm. And on this one, we've attached a drill to it, we've attached a router to it, we've put sanding attachments on it, we've done all kinds of interesting things. But to start trying to fill that all up in one video would be a very, very long video. I think we're going to cut it off there. We've covered a lot of ground today. Now, anything that you want to learn more about, we'll put links down in the description box, what we're making, what we're using on these tables, and I think you'll find that I am very much in the camp of multifunction benches in a workshop are definitely okay. There's just so many places that we can take these things. Thank you so much for spending a little bit of your valuable time with us today and let us show you what we're doing with all this crazy stuff. And remember, when you take a close look at the ordinary, you're bound to find something extraordinary. That was a little bit cheesy. We'll see you in the next video.